views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but you're urged to like and share them on Facebook. It's time for the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, heard twice weekly here. Saturday mornings at 11:05, Monday evenings at 6:05, and one extra run here and there once in a great while. Let's introduce our host tonight, this afternoon, this morning, whatever it happens to be right now, wherever you are. Here's Sue Ellen Sanders.
I love you, Cliff.
That's quite an intro, isn't it?
He's great.
Yeah, he is. It's that old-timey welcome to the show that I love to hear. Well, welcome to the show, and my guests today are Public Defender Diamond Liddy and Stephanie Myers, and they are here today to talk about a problem and a solution.
Yes,
and I
absolutely.
just love this type of show because I have the ability to promote through this show an organization that people may not have heard of and that we need to hear about, and we need to know why it's there. And that organization is called Life Builders, and Diamond and Stephanie are going to talk about it and why we need it and why we need something like this probably all over the country, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But first, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. I was thrilled when Stephanie sent me the email that we were going to be on the show. This is great. And surrounded by all the wonderful people with WPSL that we all grew up with.
And yeah, that's the thing when you came in and you were saying, Carol and Greg, they just celebrated their 25th anniversary here at WPSL. And of course, you've been involved with them in so many different ways,
Absolutely.
But also with the Christmas Kids program, and Greg already has the date set aside for the
December
Christmas
3rd,
Kids. Yeah.
We'll be getting toys for the kids.
At Diamond Liddy's office, and that usually there's a school, either a band or a chorus or somebody that comes to perform, and then you have a lot of other pomp and circumstances that you guys, you don't just host the Christmas Kids, you go overboard with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No,
so
we get lots of toys and we love the kids.
yes, it's really awesome. So we appreciate that from the radio station perspective, but we're here today to talk about a serious problem and that solution. So Life Builders is an organization that is fairly new on the Treasure Coast.
Actually, not so much.
Really?
No,
Depends
no.
on how
Seriously?
you define new.
Okay. I like that. Okay, tell me about it.
We're 9 years old. Believe it or
Seriously?
not. Yes, absolutely. We Life Builders, a 501c3, was formed approximately 9 years ago. And we've been doing great things for the community ever since, and just getting bigger and bigger, not so much with space and employees, but with help and good deeds, if you will, throughout the community. So it's really, really been wonderful.
And one of the things that I really like about the organization is it's one of those organizational names that tells it just like it is.
Absolutely.
You build people's lives. So let's put it all together here, knowing that you are the public defender from the public defender's office, and the people that you've defended often have challenges in their life.
Sure.
Whose lives are you building or rebuilding?
Okay, and you said before we opened the show, Sue Ellen, I could kind of ramble if I needed
You
to, or
absolutely
talk a lot.
could ramble.
I'm
Yeah.
going to have to talk a little more than probably the quick answer to your question, just to explain.
Okay, give us some background.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
some background, and then I'll tell you what we do. As you know, of course, and I'm sure many of the listeners know, I've been the elected public defender for almost 27 years now. With that being said, because of that experience, my prior job, which was a prosecutor, and having been involved, obviously, from both sides of the criminal justice system, I've seen what I think and believe are the needs in that system to help make a difference so that people are not back in the revolving door, back within the system time and time again. Now, with that being said, the Public Defender's Office, in conjunction with the judiciary, the state attorney's office, law enforcement, all the other players in the system, have formed some great things within this community. Things like diversion courts, which are courts, and we won't go into the detail, but courts that are diversionary courts, mental health court, drug court, veterans court, that help people get on the right track. They're not giveaway courts now. I want to make that
No,
clear.
I'm
They are very
well
rigorous,
aware. Yeah.
hard courts to get through. But once you are through, the carrot at the end is you have no criminal record, and hopefully you will be on the right track to be a successful citizen. Those have worked extraordinarily. We also have within the Public Defender's Office our reentry program, and that is in St. Lucie County in particular. It is in conjunction with Sheriff Ken Mascara. We actually have the program called the Journey Forward program, housed within the bowels of the jail to help people upon release get jobs, get housing, get whatever help they need, again, to be successful. Okay, so we've done and formed and created all these programs and diversionary courts, again, with collaboration, but there was a piece missing. And the piece that was missing is those courts and programs can be funded by taxpayer dollars, by help from the legislature, all of which we were given, and through grants and all the things we do to keep them going.
Because it's way cheaper to keep people from going back to jail
Oh, yes, it
than
is.
to house them in jail.
Absolutely.
And it's better, obviously, for
community.
them.
When you don't have more people
Yeah.
breaking into your house,
Yes,
you got less
yes,
people.
yes.
So, with that being said, they and we'll get to recidivism rates
Yeah.
here in a minute, but bottom line is they were all successful. But the piece that was missing was, for example, John, who has mental illness, gets arrested. He gets accepted into mental health court, goes through mental health court, graduates after maybe 3, maybe sometimes 5 years it takes him to successfully complete it. He gets out. He's got a job. He's back reunited with his family. Life is good. But John needs that bicycle to drive because he doesn't have a license anymore, and he needs to get to Chili's to wash dishes. Well, I can't, with public funding and taxpayer dollars, buy John that bike. Thus, the reason Life Builders was formed, to meet that need that I can't give to him with state
The things
and
that
county.
fall in the cracks that will make somebody's life successful.
And it may
yeah.
be very, very tiny.
Yeah.
It may be a bike
Yeah.
that we get used that only costs $50 for
Yeah.
him to get to Chili's. But that can make the difference between success and failure.
Because if he can't get there, he can't do his job, and then if he can't do his job, he can't get paid.
And
because
guess
he can't
what?
paid,
He needs to steal
Yeah.
or do whatever.
he's got to turn to a life of crime in order to support himself or his family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this initiative, this charity, if you will, we say 3 things. It increases public safety, it reduces jail overcrowding, and it makes people successful. It reduces recidivism. And what is recidivism for those who are not familiar with the word? It's the situation where somebody gets rearrested. The diversion courts are so successful. The average recidivism rate for someone with mental illness hovers around 73%. Those who successfully complete mental health court, it hovers around 7%.
What a difference.
Oh, yeah. But again, you've got to have all the pieces. And sometimes the piece that is missing, the public funding can address, is addressed by Life Builders and helps continue their success. So it's wonderful. The other thing, real quick, Sue Ellen, I'll let you
No,
talk
I'm
or let
good. I'm
Stephanie
good,
chime
yes.
in, is that we help people. The criteria, if you will, is you have to have touched in some way the criminal justice system. You could be a victim. You could be a defendant, someone who's arrested. You could be a witness. You could be a family member of someone. If you've touched the criminal justice system in the 19th Circuit, you can qualify. Also, the other area, if you will, that would qualify is if you have touched the dependency court system in the 19th Judicial Circuit in some way, either as a witness, victim, whatever. And what is dependency
I was
court?
just going to
Yes.
ask it. Look, you're asking the questions
Yeah.
too. I love
No.
this.
Well, I know, most people, let's face it, that are listening to the show,
Yeah.
God bless them, have not been arrested, have not been involved
Yeah.
in the criminal justice system. Dependency court is another court most people have never touched. That court is the court where children who have been abused or neglected go to court. Their parents are brought into court to ensure that stops, and they get on a plan to make sure that never happens again. So if someone has touched either of those courts in any way in the 19th Circuit, they can apply for assistance. The last criteria, if you will, is whoever gets help has to be on the road to success. We don't pay court costs. We don't. We're not going to buy John his bike to get to Chili's if he was drunk last night. He has to show, and we vet every.
I was wondering
single-
how
yeah,
you
yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
With
Oh, of course, you've got some contacts there.
oh yeah, we do. We vet every single application to make sure that person is indeed doing the right thing on the road to success, and will continue their success hopefully with our help.
So, where does the money come from to support this endeavor?
Well, it comes from individual donors, and if you want to make a donation, you can call me at 462-2000. Individual donors, grants, foundations, and we do one huge fundraiser every year. Actually, we had a rain date for the golf tournament. We just finished that last week. We do our own fundraising as well. Those are the people that the way we get money. We don't get any state funding or anything like that. It's grants, foundations, et cetera. And also on the show with us today is Stephanie Myers, who through a wonderful grant and foundation, the Andrew Hunt Foundation, we were able to, he earmarked money for us specifically to hire Stephanie to help write our grants. We are
And she's already worked because she and I, through our connection, even though this organization had been around and working and successful for 9 years, it wasn't yet on my radar
Right.
until Stephanie and I started chatting about it.
We have so many hidden treasures in this community, and I've been fortunate. I haven't been in it as long as Diamond has, but I've been around for a good 15 plus years, and I started when I was very young, I'll say that.
Yes, we all did.
And for me, coming on and joining the Life Builders team has been huge because they have been what I call a gap filler, okay? We have these wonderful programs that exist, and oftentimes there are spaces where people fall through the cracks. And, for me, Life Builders, when I first learned about them, I don't know that it was 9 years ago, but it was probably at least 7 or 8 years ago. They have always been what I perceive as being the gap filler. And they have really helped other places in the community. And when I talk about gap filling, we know that people who live in poverty struggle, and sometimes it's a domino effect. It's a spiral that starts for them. They may have one thing happen, which then throws off their whole lives. It can be simple as their car breaks down, So then they can't get to work, okay? Or, you know, they can't get to their probation officers to check in. They can't get their kids to school. All of these other challenges that come into play, and then things just spiral down from there. If you can't get to work, you could lose your job. Well, now you can't afford to pay your bills, so then you potentially could end up homeless. You have all this instability that goes on with your kids, which then contributes to their ability to perform. And the joy with Life Builders is that they can step in to that breach, and they can provide a very simple service, very simple piece. Let's get their car fixed. Okay, so then they never have to go down that awful spiral and end up, you know, homeless on the streets with their kids who are having all these problems in school. And it sounds crazy, but people who have run into this, it really can go that quickly just down the tubes.
No,
it's just horrifying to watch.
As a high school teacher,
Yes.
I especially see the kids when they talk about things, and they don't frequently talk about them. They usually hold it inside, and nobody wants to admit it. But there's something that's deeper that's usually affecting them if there's an issue, and usually their performance and their behavior in school is based on what they're modeling at home, and what they're modeling at home is a result of maybe dad being in jail, or somebody hitting somebody else, or some type of dysfunction. You
Or
got a
somebody-
dysfunctional kid. Usually there's somebody else that's dysfunctional in
Well,
the family.
and even go further than that. If you end up with a parent who is struggling with depression, let's say, for mental health issues, well, they're starting to self-medicate using alcohol or drugs, okay? Well, that all spirals right down there, and that's where the reentry programs and the diversion courts come into play, because let's stop this cycle. Let's help these parents get the assistance they need so that they can be there for their kids and help provide that stability that helps the kids eventually be successful.
Well, one thing I know about the people who work for the public defender's office, just because I do know some of the people who work for them, and I've known Diamond for years too. Actually, I did one of the first times you and I really got to sit down and talk was an interview I did before you had your son, and when my son was in a baby carrier. And he just my son turned 25, and Blaze is 22. So I've watched you develop fully in this position, and also instill in the people who work for the public defender's office the responsibility that, you know, we're all a family and we all need to help each other.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I think I'm most proud of, and I think really resonates with anybody that walks into our office or talks to the people that work there. I mean, it is very clear. It is a PD family. Everybody's got everybody's back. We got a hard, difficult, tough job to do, but we're going to do it with a smile on our face. And the people that work there are incredible, absolutely incredible. I do want to say one thing for clarification before we move on, though, Sue Ellen. What I want the listeners to realize is that this is not a bricks and mortar charity. It's not like the Boys and Girls Club or Big Brothers Big Sisters or wherever, where you're going to go to the location on Orange Avenue or whatever, walk in, get help. We are not there yet.
Mm.
I pray and hope that we get bigger and more money, and Stephanie's blesses us with some big donors, and we do have a building and we do have employees. But right now, really, before we had one very part-time employee who was vetting the applications before Stephanie was hired. The rest, for the first 7 years, it was all run with volunteers, with
In
people.
your free time between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's basically what it was. We had all of us that Lisa Fontaine and Katie Alonso were also on the ground of this as well, and it was all of our brainchild, and we just knew we needed to do this, and we decided, hey, if we need, we're going to take responsibility. And we also have other people who volunteer. One of them, I won't say her last name, Mary, who has been with us since the beginning, is an older lady who has vetted applications since the get-go, all on her not so spare time.
Yes.
But was with us and made Life Builders a reality until we could get enough money to have like a part-time person, and then of course get enough money to have a grant writer. But we're definitely just getting bigger and better, so it's exciting.
Well, you're on the cusp of something great, because when you hired the grant writer, then she writes the grants and brings in more money, and then it's just down the road. The other thing that and what I was kind of alluding to when I was talking about the
Right.
public defender's office is a lot of times your public defenders were coming up with some of these things on their own, just the way the teachers are doing the books and the
Right,
papers and the
right.
pencils. A lot of times when your office saw the need, they were stepping up to the plate
Oh,
on their own.
They always have, long before we started Life Builders. I mean, well, we still, even with Life Builders.
Of course,
we're doing
yeah,
the WPSL Christmas
yes.
Kids. We just did the What's in Your Bag food bank initiative. I'm all of the Scotty Van Duzer's Big Apple pizza rallies. We're always involved in those. It's just, it's where their heart is. But the people who work there realize, yes, you have to represent these people in the courtroom to, and follow the Constitution and ethically and zealously represent them, because they are your clients and that's your first and foremost job. But if you really, really want to make a difference, if you really want to change their lives and the world, you got to go that extra mile. You got to see where the problem is, and you got to hopefully address it. And let me tell you, these people have massive caseloads. They have, they're not making what someone in the private sector makes. They have a very difficult job, but they are going the extra mile to help the client. Yes, represent them, but to hopefully to make sure that they're never back in their offices again.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is the only way to do that is to address the client's needs. And the client's needs, you don't just say, oh, well, you're not supposed to do these things because it's against the law. When you're looking at whether it's a drug issue or a mental health issue or a VA issue, whatever is the issue, that the need is there, and the reason why that individual has turned to a life of crime, or whether it was a crime that was an unintentional crime and they still,
Right.
the punishing them, just throwing them in jail and saying you were bad and now you're in trouble is not going to solve the problem.
No, and no one here at the table or at the station or the people that work at the public defense, nobody believes that people should not be responsible for their actions. No one believes that they should not be punished for bad behavior. We all know that is a
Yes.
basic tenet of our society.
You break the
But-
law and
Exactly,
Yeah.
and there are consequences for your actions. But we can do so much, we have the capability and the ability and the moment to help these people more than anybody else that they're going to come in contact with as they go through and cycle through the system. We have the ability to make a change in their life, and that is the goal. And that's one of the most rewarding things as a public defender, or in the letters that we get from Life Builders clients, when we see that they were in a very bad situation, but the help we gave them, and again, it's usually not we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking about bikes. We're talking about work boots. We're talking about
Work clothes.
Yeah, work clothes, fixing their car so they can get whatever the case may be. That minor help made the difference between them going back to criminal activity or not.
Stephanie, you know Diamond wants to hit that table again,
I
don't you?
know. She talks with her hands.
She
I
really
resemble that,
does.
so I get it. I'm sitting here with my hands clasped. So
Yes,
I do that.
I do the same thing. I keep my hands clasped or I sit on them.
Okay, girls. I'm
Yes.
gonna sit on them.
But
think
that's because she's so passionate
Oh.
about what she's talking about.
There's one other piece that I think is really critical here, and it comes back to, we talk about it takes a village. It truly does take a village. These folks that are coming through the programs that have it's not a simple need. It's very, very complex. When people get into poverty and they're struggling with circumstances that are beyond their control, we don't have one organization out there that can meet all of their needs. You can't serve somebody, to a point where they can overcome all of that. So Life Builders is a huge part of a full network. You talk about the public defenders and the hearts that they have to help people change their lives to get back on a better path. And they can't do all that by themselves, but the community partnerships that are in place, because Life Builders has been around for a while, because they are involved with the other organizations, Life Builders is the last resort, typically. By the time somebody gets to us, they've tried all the other resources, but for a lack of help, they are going to go down that spiral, or they're going to end up re-offending and going back to that cycle. So it's really, truly working together as the village to help people get to a better space.
So are the clients then, are they self-referred or are they referred by people in
gosh.
your office? Or
Great question. All over the place, Sue Ellen. I mean, judges refer them. State attorneys refer them. Law enforcement refers them. They can self-refer. We have a website, and they can go online and apply for help online. It has really it has really caught on, and people know about us and know we're there to help. In fact, it's so funny. People will say, "Well, I didn't see you at the big charity event where everybody had tables and we're passing out literature and stuff," and we're like, we don't want. We don't
you
need
don't
any
have
more
to
public-
do that until you get more funds in that
Exactly.
you can give away.
Because
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
have enough funds to help everyone. But I want to make the point, we don't have enough funds for the need out there that is legitimate. But don't think for a moment, and I want the people to make sure they're aware of this. We turn away many people because we vet them and they don't meet the criteria. Mary calls Chili's and says, "How is John doing at his job?" Because we're about to buy him a chef's outfit, and they say, "Well, he was great, but he showed up intoxicated yesterday." Well, you throw that application. We are not there. You have to be self-sustaining. You have to want to change your life. You have to be already successful to get that additional help.
And you said that Life Builders is in contact with the other agencies that will provide that help
Sure.
for them. So let's talk about the website and the information that people need, because, as you said, you have a lot of clients who are needing the help and not as much funds that you can give them out. So you can donate through the website as well. So let's talk about how people reach that. And Facebook page too, probably? Yes, I know. I saw it.
We have
That's thanks to them. Because
I know.
Sue Ellen, because of what I do, I have never had a Facebook, nor will I ever have a Facebook. And so everybody, you got to do the social media is the way to go, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, thank goodness for Stephanie and Eric, because now we have a presence there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric's great as far as keeping up with the Facebook page, and we're still working on the website because there's always a work in progress to keep everything current. But it's LifeBuildersTC, which stands for TreasureCoast.com. So LifeBuildersTC.com.
And then you can just look at look for Treasure Coast Life Builders on Facebook? Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the two things. And actually, if you go to the website, you're going to get the link to Facebook and vice versa.
Okay. And, I just have to say just one positive thing about Facebook. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on and there's a lot of problems. But one of the easiest ways, as someone who's been doing this radio show for a long time, you used to have to say, okay, well, you can call this radio station and we'll give you a contact information. But now we can just say, look for it on Facebook. And if people are driving down the road listening to this or in the middle of something or just half listening, they can contact the organization and get more information. And so, I think it's awesome that you have put together the face for the organization here and that people can contact you. You said that you have the one big fundraiser, the golf tournament, and that just happened. So you got plenty of time before the next one.
Right.
And so Stephanie is going to be really busy writing grants.
Already am.
And
Only been there a couple months, and I already am.
Yeah. And people can, along with writing grants, they can figure out a way that they can volunteer, that they can help, that they can write checks.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And just to give you some perspective of how we've grown and how the word is out and how people have believed in us. Our first our big fundraiser is a cocktail party on a Friday night and the golf tournament the next day on Saturday. The first one we had was in 2011. We raised $30,000. It has grown bigger and bigger and bigger. We just finished the golf tournament portion because we had a rain issue, so we had the golf tournament a little later than the cocktail party this year. We raised over $75,000.
Goodness.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And,
so you're not just doing it by people playing golf. You have a whole to-do.
It's a whole
yeah.
weekend.
Yes.
And boy, is it, oh my gosh. I mean, talk about by Sunday.
A lot of fun, but a lot of exhaustion.
Oh, yeah. Sunday, you just can't even, I mean, it's overwhelming. But it just shows you, and we have gotten funding from the sheriff's departments. We have gotten funding from the Board of County Commissioners in St. Lucie County. Actually, the board provides our database for us for free. So it's not just about us believing in us and the system believing in us. The community at large, obviously, knows we are spending the dollars well. It's going to great places for great things, and we're making a difference in recidivism.
Changing lives.
Sometimes people who need the most are the most embarrassed to ask for it.
Oh, sure.
And is there like a financial qualifying that they have to go through?
No.
I like that.
No.
Because then they don't have to. They don't have to say, I'm really down and I have to have this. They can say, can you help me, without embarrassing themselves.
Oh, yeah. No. We don't have any financial affidavit to fill out. Now, obviously, if you apply for the services of the public defender in your criminal case to represent you in court, the statute provides you've got to fill out. That's a different thing. But if you're going the next step, if you will, and you need help from Life Builders, no, we don't even ask you. We don't,
We do ask in the sense that we want to verify that people are doing what they say they're doing.
So
if somebody says, I'm working and I need transportation, we may say, can you get us a copy of a pay stub?
Yes.
Because we want to be able to verify that, in fact, they're doing that. And if you think about it, most of the folks that are applying for assistance are people who, if they had the resources, they wouldn't even think about asking anybody to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's sort of a self-filtering process. And that helps. But we do that verification piece just from the angle of making sure that people are working towards the goals that they've established.
The other thing that I'd like to go back to for just a minute is you said people who are touched by the system. So it doesn't have to be the person who was in jail for the crime.
Right.
So let's talk about that. You know, you said people who are touched, that could be the victim.
Could be
Of
a
a
victim
crime?
in a case. Oftentimes, people who are incarcerated have children, have families, and they have children who need school supplies. For example, we collaborate with the school system every year for uniforms and for backpacks for those getting out of jail. There are if it's a victim of a crime and they've had an issue with what happened to them or whatever, and they need help, we will absolutely vet their application and consider giving them money and give them money if they qualify.
I think a good example of that would be, like we haven't talked a lot about the child dependency courts, but when you have a grandparent who's taking over care for a child because mom or dad is incarcerated for however long they're incarcerated, they may not have a bed. Okay, so we have people that apply and they say, hey, I need to have a twin bed so that I can house my grandchild in a safe environment. Well, that's a very simple cost, but for some families that are living on fixed incomes, it's too much.
Well, and oftentimes the court will say, okay, temporarily while the parents are incarcerated, I will give custody to the grandparents, but the only way I'm going to do that is if you have separate beds for the siblings or whatever.
So it goes
they can-
round and round
yeah,
and
so
round.
if they don't
yeah.
have the money to
Yeah.
have the 2 beds instead of the
Yeah.
1, then we're back. They're in foster care, whatever. So it just, we are all we're sitting in this beautiful radio station. We drove our cars here. We have air conditioning, in our homes. We tend to have blinders as to how many people live, and what we take for granted, other people don't, and to other people can make, like I say, all the difference in the world.
Well, the other thing that I'd like to point out before we finish up is that just because somebody is a client of the public defender doesn't mean they're getting the whole ball of wax for free.
Oh, no.
There are
no.
costs that are involved. It is expensive to go to jail or to be arrested
Even
or
if
to
you're
go to court.
falsely accused. I mean, there are all
Even-
kinds of things that happen,
yes,
and that's
yeah.
that's the job of the public defender, is to help in those circumstances as well.
So, so even if somebody is considered themselves kind of middle class or lower middle class, but getting by and has always paid their own way, being accused or being arrested or going and being incarcerated can change their status financially.
Oh, absolutely.
And in one fell swoop.
Yep.
And if you don't get that extra help, you can't ever bounce back from it.
Well, and the other thing I know we're near the end, but I do want to point out we are very proud because we have run this organization very carefully, crawled before we walked, did not go out and rent some huge building and hire expensive employees. 92 cents of every dollar that people donate to Life Builders goes to help people. I don't know if there's too many organizations
That
out
can
there
really, yeah.
say that. And,
Yeah.
and that's not to say, I mean, God, we all know, we love United Way, all these big organizations. They have to have, they're huge. They have to have executive directors. They have to have, paid staff, and I understand that. But we are pretty proud of that.
And in order to keep things as bare bones as possible right now, it's important that you have the support of people in the community. And so, again, I'm going to point out that they can go to the website.
And use their credit card to donate,
and-
send a paper check. We'll take all of it.
You don't have to donate $500. You can
No,
donate, especially
$5.
if you have been touched by the system in some way and you want to give back. I know, Diamond, you and I both have had a lot of experience with campaigns with the United Way. And sometimes it's the people who have the least that give the most.
Oh,
Exactly.
absolutely.
So-
Well, and I've got to end. I hope we have enough time. Real quick, anyone who helps signs what we call a pay it forward agreement, saying that at some time in their life they are going to pay it forward for the help that they have been given. And if you read the letters of the people and the things they've done to pay it forward, it would blow your mind.
That's awesome to hear. That is a great way to keep it going. Diamond Liddy, the public defender, has been my guest, along with Stephanie Myers, the grant writer for Life Builders. You're listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more.
And now back to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show.
And welcome back. And we just have a bonus extra show that's part of the show. And, again, I have people that I've known for a long time in the studio, at least Bonnie Spector, who is the co-owner of South Florida Dance Studio, and Amanda, who is the director of their latest show that will be at the
Sunrise Theater.
The Sunrise Theater, The Little Mermaid. And it's the first time that you all, as a dance company, are producing The Little Mermaid. Of course, South Florida Dance Company is renowned for doing their December show that instead of doing your typical dance Nutcracker, which is awesome and wonderful, you bring to life every year A Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Thank you.
But The Little Mermaid is going to be your summer show. So why don't you tell me more about it?
Yes. Well, I think that when most people think of The Little Mermaid, they think of the Disney version.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also a very famous novel by the author Hans Christian Andersen from Denmark. And the novel is actually where, the Disney film came from, and it's not quite as bright and happy.
Oh,
It's a little
there's a dark
darker.
side.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a little darker.
Other than
and-
Ursula, there's something darker than Ursula.
Yeah. So basically, there was a director in Germany, John Neumeier, and he took over The Little Mermaid as a ballet, and it premiered in 2005. So since that ballet has been done, it's just kind of like swept the States, and it's done very well. Many ballet companies do it to this day and are very successful with the show. I've performed it before when I was dancing with Charlotte Ballet, and I've seen many companies perform the show. So I've had a lot of experience with the show previously, which I think helps. I'm kind of combining everything into this show. So,
But this is a children's
it is a
then
children's story.
teen
Mhm.
It's definitely a
story
family.
and a
Yeah, it's
family.
definitely a family show. It mostly follows the lines of the Disney version, where you have like King Triton and Ariel and the Mermaid Sisters, and basically Ariel falls in love with a prince who's shipwrecked in the ocean, and she wants to be a human and fall in love with him. So Ursula, we have a sea witch, but she basically, says that if you give me your voice, I will give you legs. And so they kind of make that trade-off, and she goes to the shore and tries to fall in love with the prince, but the prince is distracted by Ursula's, what would you call her? She's like a pretty,
Seductress.
yeah. Ursula kind of has a human form that she takes to
The magical, deceptive form. Yes. So
Uh-huh.
so far it is kind of sounding
Like
a
the
little bit like
movie.
the Disney
Mhm.
version, but with the twists of the deeper, darker ballet.
Yeah, there are like more like things that I pull from the story. Like in the story, mermaids can't cry tears because they are underwater. So I take a lot of that, like not being able to cry in the ballet, and I take like little things here and there from other places, but it does follow along the Disney storyline because that's the happy one, you know.
So, it's a family show. So this is you're encouraging families to come, and it's coming up not too far in the distance at the beginning of June,
Yeah.
Yes, it's June 1st.
which is it's a very beginning of June. Yes.
Yes, it's actually, I think, the students' last day of school, so great way to end the school year to come see the ballet.
And it's going to take place at the Sunrise Theater, and so you can purchase tickets on the Sunrise Theater website.
Yes.
Are there any other places, or is that mainly the way you
Just
want
the
to?
Sunrise Theater. They can also go to the box office or call the 772-461-4775. That is the box office number, and they can purchase tickets there as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the kids that are involved in the production, because that's always really exciting to see. One thing about South Florida Dance Company is you totally forget that these are kids that are doing the show.
We've had quite a few people at the end of some performances tell us that.
Yeah.
That they're just like in shock that some of these are students.
I was the first time I came to see A Christmas Carol. I'm like, oh yeah, well I'm going to go, and you know it's a nice thing to do. It was a nice thing to do for me. It was awesome. It was incredible, and I was blown away by the performances and the professionalism and the costumes.
And we have our work cut out for us right now with costuming.
Literally, right?
We've been working on this show now for at least 6 months, and we are going to be down to the wire getting some of these specialty costumes done. But they're being hand sewn.
So
Some of
how
them.
does one dance in a mermaid tail? I mean,
Well, that's what you're going to have to come to find out. That is actually one of the biggest, I would say,
Surprises?
is
Yes.
to see how that's going to happen. How do we give Ariel legs on stage
yes.
from a tail? So it's very interesting. So when you're working a show like this, the creative process that happens is not just with the artistry and the movement and the choreography. It's also the sets, the costuming, the lighting design. That in itself is a very important part of the show and how you even tell a story. You don't realize how different colors and lighting effects will emote
And
feeling
the sound
on the
as
yes,
well.
and
yes.
the music as
yeah.
well. So the music, oh my gosh, it took you months of work.
Yeah.
You had some
And
help
you've
with
done it-
Tasha, but she
yeah.
really did find most of the music she wanted to use herself, and it's from artists and composers from all over the world. Honestly,
Yeah,
we're
it's
pulling
amazing.
from within our ASCAP license that we have. So, it's definitely this ballet is actually, I would say, 2 years in the making.
Yeah.
We weren't quite ready to work it last year, so we just kept perfecting everything over the next year and announced it in December. So
Who are the kids that are performing? What age range are we talking about?
7 to 18, and then we have a couple of guest artists. My husband is making a cameo appearance in the ballet. We cannot say what he's doing.
It's
Yes,
exciting.
but it's exciting. It's something fun. So
And so there's a couple of token adults,
yes,
and the rest of them, you know, I know several families that have been talking about it and rehearsing for a while, and you know, a lot of the kids they have their tryouts, and so then you decide who is going to be dancing what part based on their talents.
right. We've met months before and developed a character list. And then we go through that list, and then we develop a storyline. And then we get to the storyline, and we're like, oh, you know, we kind of need to add other characters in this storyline. So you kind of go back and forth with character parts before they even have auditions, so we know what parts you really need to tell the story. So sometimes you think you have enough, and then you realize you don't. And I guarantee you we'll watch the show this year and think, oh, you know what we really need to add here is this, that, and the other. And we need a different prop for this. And we do have some really interesting props and set building going on, some pretty creative ideas that we have being made for that. I mean, we have a ship that's dropping from the fly system, and
Wow.
it's very, very neat.
So,
So-
is it just the one performance, June 1st?
It's just the one. So the Sunrise Theater is huge. It's seats just over 1,200 patrons. So
You expect to sell out?
It's
anything
looking
can
like
happen.
it.
It's looking like
the
it might.
seats
I
are going
mean,
fast.
I think in our center orchestra, we only had maybe 20 or so
Yeah,
seats left.
if that.
So
So go
it's going
online.
quickly.
You can go online and you can pick your seats because it is a seated theater.
yes.
It's not just general admission, stand at the door and rush in. You can pick your seats online at www.sunrisetheater.org or .com.
.com.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go to the box office and purchase them that way. But you'll probably maybe have some seats available at the door. But I would not wait. This is the kind of thing, June
Yes, I would
1st.
if you really are interested in this type of story and this ballet, and to see the creativity that's going to happen, you'll want to get your tickets.
Awesome. Well, we're
For
looking forward to it. June 1st at the Sunrise Theater, the South Florida Dance Company's production of The Little Mermaid. Thank you so much for stepping in and telling us about The Little Mermaid. We look forward to seeing it on stage at the Sunrise on June 1st.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We'll see you next week with more.
The Sue Ellen Sanders Show, Saturday mornings at 11:05, Monday evenings at 6:05, right here on Digital 1590 WPSL.